Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And Dynamite tonight, I thought it was a solid show, in my opinion. Though it was a very enjoyable show tonight. On tonight's Dynamite, we saw the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, end up taking on a new tag team that AEW has called Top Flight, which this was their debut match on Dynamite. I know they had a match, from what I heard, on AEW Dark last week. Well, I don't watch AEW Dark, but that's what I heard. But tonight marked Top Flight's debut on Dynamite. We also saw Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian. We also saw the return of Pock after 8 months of him not competing. So he finally made his in-ring return on Dynamite tonight, where he ended up taking on The Blade. We also had the NWA Women's World Championship on the line. Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. And in the main event, we saw Brian Cage and Ricky Starks, of course, of Team Taz, where they end up taking on Cody and Darby Allen. But Dynamite tonight was a solid show, in my opinion. But before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out the previous videos that I uploaded, Monday Night Raw recap and results video I did on Monday, so definitely go check that out. Also did a movie review of Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I uploaded yesterday. It's a very dark Disney film from 1983. Really enjoyed that film. So definitely go check out those two videos if you haven't seen them. But let's get on with the Dynamite review. So Dynamite kicked off tonight with the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, versus the new AEW tag team, Top Flight. And Top Flight, they're made up of Dante and Darius Martin. Dante is 19 years old. Darius is 21. And they're both real-life brothers. They're both brothers. And they end up getting a shot against Matt and Nick. And they end up saying that they end up texting Matt Jackson. And they end up getting a response from him. This was all explained in the video package before the match got underway between the Bucks and Top Flight. But they end up saying that they are looking to make a name for themselves. And that is by beating Matt and Nick Jackson. By beating the Young Bucks. So then the match got underway. The Bucks versus Top Flight. This was a very good match. A very good debut for Top Flight here on Dynamite. And Top Flight, they have been trained by Ken Anderson. And all of you know who Ken Anderson is. You know, Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy. Yeah, we all know, Ken Anderson. He was once with WWE. He was once a United States champion in WWE. And then he went on to TNA. So I really enjoyed Ken Anderson when he was in WWE during his WWE run. How he always came out and always had the microphone and did his own entrance. And then they were also trained by Molly Holly, which was awesome to hear. So both Ken Anderson and Molly Holly end up training this young duo of Top Flight. But the match started off with Darius avoiding a super kick from Nick Jackson. Nick tried to go for a flying arm drag to Darius, but Darius ended up landing on his feet. So then we had both Top Flight in the ring, Darius and Dante. And they ended up delivering stereo kicks to Matt Jackson. We saw Darius end up delivering a big kick to Nick Jackson, which sent Nick Jackson off of the ring apron. So we had Matt and Nick end up taking a breather on the outside. You had the Bucks end up delivering a bulldog drop kick combo to Dante, which looked cool. Matt Jackson ended up locking in the sharpshooter on Dante, but Darius ended up getting into the ring, breaks up the sharpshooter. Nick Jackson ended up eating a back elbow from Darius. Then we had Dante was powerbombed by Nick Jackson. And at the end of the match, you had Dante getting a roll-up on Matt, but he ends up getting taken by a BTE trigger. But the Young Bucks end up winning the match. But overall, it was a very good match between the Bucks and Top Flight. Of course, Top Flight, like I said, they made their Dynamite debut tonight, and they looked great. They end up looking great in this match, and they were made to look good by the Young Bucks. But I was very impressed with Top Flight here. Post-match, you had Jack Evans and Angelico. They were shown attacking Top Flight on the outside. And then Matt and Nick Jackson ended up chasing Jack Evans and Angelico away. So Matt and Nick helped up Top Flight, and they ended up shaking hands. So basically, that was pretty much it. But Matt and Nick showing respect to these guys because it was their debut on Dynamite, and they are a very good tag team, which was shown here in this match. I see a lot of success in Top Flight from what we saw in this match tonight. So, but Dante and Darius as Top Flight, they were great here in this match, and I would love to see what future matches they will be in on Dynamite. I'd like to see a match with them with FTR. I think that would be a great match, seeing FTR and Top Flight go at it. Well, overall, it was a very good match with the Bucks and Top Flight. Good debut for Top Flight tonight on Dynamite. And then we moved on to the Inner Circle in Las Vegas, which I really enjoyed this whole thing with them going to Vegas. So we saw the Inner Circle. They were playing blackjack and among other games. So we saw Ortiz and Sammy Guevara. They weren't enjoying themselves. They weren't having a lot of fun. So then we saw they headed to a bar. The Inner Circle ended up heading to a bar with Wardlow and Jake Hager just staring at each other. So MJF and Jericho were at the bar, and they were going back and forth by, what drinks they want to order, strong drinks. MJF was like, oh yeah, let me have some moonshine. Jericho ended up asking for Everclear. So the bartender was like, oh, we haven't served any of that, and they were like, oh, just give it to us. And it was just MJF and Jericho just bickering back and forth on what strong drink they want to have. So it was just like that. So the bartender ends up bringing MJF and Jericho this Everclear drink. Both MJF and Jericho end up drinking it down, and they end up holding their stomachs, and they were like, "Son of a bitch," the both of them. But it was funny though. So Santana and Ortiz end up asking if they want to go to the next level. So then we saw Conan shows up. He ended up saying that he's always got the best stuff. So we saw the Inner Circle then comes out of a limo, and there was smoke surrounding them. Sammy Guevara was drunk. Sammy Guevara ended up telling MJF that he hates him. And then they end up started laughing, which this whole thing was hilarious. So then Wardlow and Jake Hager were still being pissed at each other. And both Wardlow and Hager beat it up on some guys. And then we saw it to be continued. And the Inner Circle were stumbling down the sidewalk. So, but it was a hilarious first part to this whole thing with the Inner Circle in Vegas. But just really enjoyed it. Really loved it. So then we had Jon Moxley end up cutting a promo backstage. Moxley ended up saying that he's been on a crazy-ass ride for the last 16 years, and that it makes sense to him now. Moxley ended up saying that he's always asked how he's been able to be the champion for so long. He ended up saying that it's because of his dad, a big man that would box your ears off. Moxley ended up bringing up how people have tried to lie, cheat, and steal the AEW World Championship from him. Of course, there he was referencing late great Eddie Guerrero. So Moxley ended up saying that he's had to fight monsters. He ended up saying his dad once told him, "We're the good guys." And then this was breaking news that came out because Moxley ended up confirming it here in the promo. He then mentioned that he's got a pregnant wife at home. So it was then came out in an article, it was released that Moxley and his wife, Renee Paquette, aka Renee Young, as how we all know her, are expecting their first child. So big congrats to Moxley and Renee there. Big congrats to them. So Moxley ended up saying that he will sign the contract without hesitation tonight, because of course we had later on the contract signed between Moxley and Kenny Omega. So he ended up saying that he will sign the contract without hesitation because he's the best wrestler in the world. He went, I am John goddamn Moxley, and that's never going to change. So awesome promo from Moxley from backstage. But like I said, congrats to Moxley and Renee on their first child. And then we had Kip Sabian versus Orange Cassidy. Miro was on commentary during this match. But the match itself, it was a pretty decent match here. It was back and forth between Sabian and Orange Cassidy. We had Orange Cassidy, again, a side headlock on Kip Sabian. Cassidy was trying to put his hands in his pockets, but Kip Sabian wouldn't let him do it. And he tried to do it twice in this match. Cassidy tried to put his hands in his pockets twice in this match, but Cassidy wouldn't. But Sabian wouldn't let him do it. So Orange Cassidy was looking to go for her Hurricanrana, but Sabian ended up playing him down to the mat. Sabian then ended up again sent out to the floor by Cassidy. Cassidy then delivered a suicide dive to the outside and threw Kip Sabian back into the ring. We had Penelope Ford getting involved where she got in Orange Cassidy's way. And what was really funny was Orange Cassidy ended up giving Penelope Ford a high five. And then that led to Kip Sabian landing a kick to Orange Cassidy's head. And Kip Sabian then ended up dropping Orange Cassidy down on his knees, went for the cover. Cassidy ended up kicking out at 2. And then Kip Sabian ended up taking control of the match, ended up putting Orange Cassidy on the top turnbuckle. Cassidy then ended up swinging away at Sabian, which he ended up shoving Sabian down. Sabian ended up coming right back up and delivered a kick to Cassidy, but then got pushed away. Cassidy then ended up delivering a diving crossbody and swinging DDT to Kip Sabian, which Cassidy went for the cover. Sabian ended up kicking out at 2. So then at the end of the match, you had Kip Sabian doing a knee and a swing to Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy was able to get in the mousetrap pin for the 3 count. So Orange Cassidy ended up winning the match. Post-match, Miro then ran to the ring. He jumped off the commentary, ran into the ring, leapt over the top rope, and delivered a lariat, a big lariat, to Orange Cassidy, which Cassidy sold the hell out of that lariat. That was awesome looking, how the way Cassidy sold that. So then we had Chucky T, and Trent, the best friends, end up coming out, chased out Kip Sabian and Miro. And then, of course, Chucky T and Trent end up delivering a hug to Orange Cassidy. Of course, the famous hug. And then the camera pans back. But that was that. But overall, decent match between Kip Sabian and Orange Cassidy, even though Kip Sabian here is nothing but a jobber. I mean, he's just like Peter Avalon and Leva Bates, with the whole stupid, shitty librarian gimmick that they have. And you wonder why they're not on Dynamite television. And then we went to Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone, he was in the ring for the contract signing between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, which they're going to be facing each other once again on December 2nd, which AEW is calling that edition of Dynamite Winter is Coming. So Kenny Omega ended up coming out first. Kenny Omega came out wearing a nice suit, and he was wearing his shades. So he came into the ring first, and then Moxley's music ended up playing. But Moxley did not come out. He didn't show up. He didn't come out to the ring. So we went backstage, and Moxley was shown knocked out. And we had medical staff and referees end up checking on Moxley. Moxley looked like he had a bloody nose. And we had Tony Schiavone end up asking Kenny Omega if he has anything to say about what happened. Kenny Omega ended up telling Tony Schiavone that he's not one for the physical stuff. Last time it was an elbow. Now, a bloody nose. So Omega ended up saying that Moxley isn't avoiding this one. Omega ended up saying that winter is coming. And so is he. So then Omega ended up signing the contract, and he ended up heading out of the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. So pretty much, we all probably know that Kenny Omega was the one who knocked out Moxley backstage. So we all know it's Kenny Omega. But Omega ended up signing it, and we're going to get this match on December 2nd on that edition of Dynamite called Winter is Coming, which that's going to be a really great match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, where the AEW World Championship is going to be on the line. And then we had part 2 of the Inner Circle in Las Vegas. So the Inner Circle was shown on a rooftop. We had Jericho being tipsy. He ended up saying that the group is stronger than ever with a new member. And this new member was a Elvis impersonator. So this Elvis impersonator ends up drinking with the Inner Circle. But this whole thing was hilarious. MJF ended up saying that he's got something to get off his chest. He ended up saying that he's always been a lone wolf. And he's now found a wolf pack. He ends up saying that the Inner Circle are his blood brothers. So Sammy Guevara offered to make it official, and he ends up cutting his hand. So MJF then leads the Inner Circle as they all howl. So they all let a oh! So they end up howling. So then we go to the next morning. Jericho ends up waking up. He wakes up with a headache. And he sees the Elvis impersonator in the same bed with him. And then Jericho couldn't remember anything. And he ended up saying that he can't believe he drank gin. So MJF was shown climbing out of a bathtub. He ended up finding Sammy Guevara in a fountain. MJF ended up saying, "At least I'm not soft." So MJF was shown with stuff written on his face, phrases written on his face, which I found funny. So Sammy, apparently Sammy got married 3 times. And Ortiz was pumped up. Santana was shown down in the lobby feeding a bunch of chickens. So then Jericho ends up stumbling around the hotel with Santana, and they're trying to find, everyone. So they end up hearing a baby crying. So they end up walking in to hear who this, baby was crying. And the baby was Hornswoggle. Yes, it was Hornswoggle in a diaper crying on the floor. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Hornswoggle was in a diaper and he was crying on the floor. And then Jericho ends up yelling out, "Guys, we got a problem." And that was how it ended with the Inner Circle in Vegas. But really loved this whole Inner Circle in Vegas. It was absolutely hilarious, and it was very entertaining. So, and I really liked how the way they did their own parody version here of The Hangover. But just absolutely entertaining this was. So then Jericho was on commentary. He ended up saying that he still has a headache from that trip to Vegas. He ended up saying that the new and improved Inner Circle is back next week. And on next week's Dynamite, it will be him and Hager versus Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, SCU. So that's going to be taking place on Dynamite next week. And then we had Pock versus The Blade. Pock making his in-ring return. He's been out of AEW. He's been out of in AEW ring in 8 months. So we had Eddie Kingston. He was on commentary for the match because, of course, the Butcher and the Blade, along with the Bunny, they're his pals. That is Kingston's pals there. And Kingston on commentary, whenever you hear him on commentary, it's a breath of fresh air with him doing commentary. Even when he's on the mic, you just gotta listen to what the guy has to say. But this match, it was a pretty solid match here. It was awesome seeing Pock in the ring again after 8 months of him not competing. He's been out because, of course, the pandemic. So the match started with Pock landing in a drop kick right off the bat to the Blade. Pock then beat up the Blade even more, sending him out to the floor. And he ended up jamming the Blade into the barricade. So they went back to the ring. Pock ended up going up to the top and delivered a drop kick. So the Blade ended up hitting Pock with a baseball slide, and it threw him into the barricade. Later on, Pock ended up gaining control of the match, and he launched the Blade into the corner, delivered a kick to the Blade's stomach. So Allie, aka the Bunny, ended up getting involved, trips Pock, as he was going to the ropes. Pock ends up going out to the floor, which the Butcher ended up cracking Pock from behind, tossed him back into the ring. At the end of the match, Pock ended up winning the match, where he ended up going up to the top, delivered a shooting star press to the Blade, which then he after he hit the shooting star press, he locked the Blade into the brutalizer. So the Blade ended up tapping out. So there you go. Pock ended up winning the match. Post-match, Pock ended up getting on the mic, and he was staring at Eddie Kingston, who was still on commentary. So Pock ended up going on to say, "You say you like to fight me," he was saying to Eddie Kingston. But the Butcher ends up coming from behind and knocks Pock. So Kingston was laughing on commentary, and he made his way to the ring. He got off commentary, and he made his way into the ring. And the Blade and the Butcher were still beating up on Pock. So Kingston ends up getting on the mic. Kingston ends up mocking Pock for being away for 8 months. Kingston ends up asking Pock if he thinks he's a tough guy. So Kingston ended up saying that he's going to put him through a storm. So Phoenix ends up jumping into the ring, and the Butcher and the Blade end up taking care of Phoenix. And Kingston was talking more trash to Pock. Excuse me. So on commentary, they were wondering where Penta El Zia Miedo was. So Penta ends up finally coming out with a chair in hand. Kingston ends up telling Penta to take out Phoenix with the chair. So Penta then goes to swing at Kingston. And Kingston ends up running from the ring. So it looks like the Death Triangle is back together with Phoenix and Penta. And also Pock. So there you go. Death Triangle is back together, which is awesome. So it looks like Pock is going to be feuding with Eddie Kingston soon by how this is going. And that would be a really awesome match to see. Pock versus Eddie Kingston. So that'll be coming up very soon. And then we went backstage and we saw Jade Cargill. She had a chair wrapped around Brandy Rhodes' arm. She then stomps the chair down on Brandy Rhodes. So we had other members of the the roster end up coming to save Brandy, like you saw Big Swole there. So looks like we're going to be seeing a Jade Cargill versus Brandy Rhodes match coming up soon. And then we had Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa, where the NWA Women's World Championship was on the line. Serena Deeb, of course, the NWA Women's World Champion. And this was a pretty solid match here. This was a pretty solid women's match. We saw Serena Deeb trying to go for the early pin on Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa then kicked out at 2. We had Rosa then ends up powering Serena Deeb around the ring, delivering a power slam and a running senton to Deeb. Thunder Rosa went for the cover. Deeb kicked out at 2. We had Rosa end up delivering a chop to Deeb's chest, which sent Deeb to the middle rope. Thunder Rosa then ends up delivering a dive into Deeb's back. So Thunder Rosa was taunting Serena Deeb a bit. Deeb ended up hitting a dragon screw leg whip into the rope to Thunder Rosa. At the end of the match, Serena Deeb ended up winning the match and retaining the NWA Women's World Championship. Post-match, you had Britt Baker was at ringside, and Thunder Rosa went after her. Rosa then ended up yanking Britt Baker over the barricade, which she ended up sending Britt Baker into the barricade. So the referees had to come out to separate Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. Britt Baker ended up yelling at Thunder Rosa, "You don't belong here." So it looks like we're going to be getting a rivalry between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. But you gotta say, the NWA Women's World Championship is getting a lot more TV time than the AEW Women's World Championship. But overall, it was a solid match. It was a solid women's match between Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. And then we saw John Silver and Anna Jay of the Dark Order backstage. They were chatting about her career and her joining the Dark Order. John Silver ended up saying that Anna Jay won her last 4 matches, and that she is now in the top 5 rankings for AEW. You know how AEW always does their rankings. So Silver ended up saying that Brody Lee demanded to Tony Khan that next week Anna Jay will get a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship against Hikaru Shida. So Anna Jay ended up saying that she can't wait to reintroduce herself to Hikaru Shida after she lost to Hikaru Shida a few months ago. So we're going to be getting that next week on Dynamite. Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay, where the AEW Women's World Championship is going to be on the line. So then they went over the matches that we're going to be seeing on Dynamite next week. Of course, we're going to be seeing Jericho and Hager versus SCU, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay, AEW Women's World Championship on the line. We're also going to be seeing Pock and Phoenix versus the Butcher and the Blade. And Hobbs is going to be in action next week. And Hobbs plays a certain part in the main event that we saw tonight. So then we went to Darby Allen. We saw the outside of a church, and Darby Allen was standing on a peak with his TNT Championship. He was shown with a skateboard, and he was inside the building looking at the camera. We saw fire started coming up the side of his leg. I thought it was really cool. Then we had the main event. Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes versus Team Taz of Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Of course, Cody came out along with Arn Anderson. Taz was on commentary. It's always a joy to hear Taz on commentary. And we had the commentary guys. They ended up knowing that Cody was wearing a pizza shirt. And because of that, this was possibly Cody taking a jab to Shaq, because Shaq does, of course, the Papa John's commercials. So Cody was taking a jab at Shaq there. So then the match got underway, which this was a pretty good main event. Darby Allin and Ricky Starks started battling out. Darby Allin ended up delivering some shots that put Ricky Starks down. Brian Cage ended up coming in, and Brian Cage ended up doing a hip toss into a backbreaker to Cody, which Cody ended up getting in. Cody then ended up taking control of the match, which Taz ended up deciding to go to ringside to get a closer look at that. So Taz then got involved, ended up grabbing Cody's leg, which Brian Cage then ended up sending Cody out to the floor because of that distraction from Taz. So Arn Anderson was pissed off at that. He ended up throwing a chair into the ring. The referee ended up, telling Arn Anderson to go to the back because of Arn throwing the chair into the ring. Brian Cage was, still working over Cody. Starks ended up yanking Darby Allin off the ring apron. Starks then got into the match. He ends up stomping away at Cody. And Cody was able to get up and tag in Darby Allin. Darby Allin was delivering some elbows on Starks. Cage ended up tagging in. Cage ended up suplexing Darby Allin. Cody ended up sliding out to get in Taz's face. And at the end of the match, you had Brian Cage end up delivering the drill claw to Darby Allin. He ended up putting Darby Allin on his shoulders, and he ended up hitting a avalanche drill claw, which looked pretty cool. So because of that, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks ended up winning the match. So Team Taz got a victory over Cody and Darby Allin. Post-match, we had Brian Cage celebrating. Ricky Starks was being up on Darby Allin. Cody ended up trying to make the save. Cage then ended up swinging away on Cody. And then we see Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs then ran out with a chair, and he ended up getting Cage and Darby Allin out of the ring. So Hobbs ended up noticing that the FTW Championship was in the ring. Hobbs then took the FTW Championship, lifted up. So Will Hobbs was shown smiling at Brian Cage. So Cody ended up coming up to thank Will Hobbs. And then Hobbs ends up whacking Cody with the FTW Championship. So Will Hobbs turns heel, and he joins Team Taz. So Hobbs was shown smiling down at Cody. Team Taz ends up getting back into the ring, and they were taunting Cody. Taz also was taunting Cody while he was down. And that's how Dynamite went off the air tonight. So, but this was awesome. Will Hobbs joining Team Taz, along with Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. That was pretty cool to see. So let's see how Will Hobbs does, as a heel, with him being alongside Ricky Starks and Brian Cage and Taz. It's going to be a dominating tag team here. So, but overall, Dynamite was a solid show. It was a very enjoyable show tonight. But yes, anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, which will be the SmackDown review on Friday. So until then, see you all on Friday with the SmackDown review.